Hi guys, you're welcome to the channel. Guys, I'm Favor Napoleon and this channel is Living Life with Favor Napoleon. Guys, I have two channels. It's also Favor Napoleon. That one is a vlog channel and this one is where we share our thoughts, guys, where we deal with life issues. So guys, on today's video is a continuation of the video I did about the first video. The part one was about my dad. I lost my dad a few months ago and I haven't been on YouTube, so I list some things my father lived by that made him the principles he had, and that just differentiated us, the children. And I shared some thoughts there, and this is the continuation. In that video I shared just two or three thoughts, guys. I just did the video a couple of minutes ago. So but in this one I'm going to be sharing up to 5 or 7, and I'm going to be really fast because there's so many things to talk about my dad that really differentiated him, and that I think because of this is because of his kind of lifestyle that actually made him live that long. Guys, my dad died at the age of 110, meaning he lived in how many decades? 11. Guys, he lived he lived in 11 generations. Guys, he lived 110. That is 11 generations. Am I not right, guys? So guys, he lived a good life, and I think because of the principles, his beliefs, and his kind of mindset that actually contributed to him living that long, and I'm grateful for his life. I met my dad few years before he passed, like 4 years before he passed, and I led him to Christ again to reassure me that this guy, for you to live this long, you're gonna make heaven. And he gave his life to Christ, and I'm happy I was able to lead him to Christ, and I'm happy right now that he's in heaven. So guys, now we are talking about the life he lived, the principle he had, and the things I shared few already in that video. So this one I'm going to just do like 5 or 7. This video is not scripted, so as I'm just talking, guys, just be, you know what I mean. So guys, the first one was, I've never seen my dad beat any of his children, like hit them, like Africa parents. Especially those olden days ones, not this new generation Gen Z kind of, those days Africa parents. For my dad to have lived 110 at least is those days. So but the best way they correct children, is to give them basketballs. You did this, you flogged them. I've never really seen my dad beat any of his children, hit any of his children, or maybe probably, if I've ever seen that, maybe probably a conk or something. So, and that was strange. And in the house we were all growing. You just follow rules and regulations, which I already shared in the first video. In case you haven't watched it, please watch the part 1 of this video. So we just follow rules and regulations, as in my dad does not need to beat you. There's nothing like, oh, if I do this thing now, my dad will deal with you. My mom, she will settle down, use broom, use cane, use shoe, use her hands, use any weapon she can lay her hands on to deal with that child. But my daddy doesn't do that. You just know. Most of the thing he does is, when you do something wrong, he will call you and talk to you. So that talking that he will talk to you, you will even prefer it than beating. It's like, they better just beat me than talk. My father can call a family meeting, call all his children because you did something wrong, and sit down with you and talk to you. So to just avoid all those drama of him calling people, of him, and when my dad wants to talk to you, he talks to you when everybody is sleeping. He can just come to your bed and wake you around 2 a.m. in the morning. He will say, Kagbe, sit down. At that time, Nobody is awake. It's you and him. So if you just want to avoid all those drama, you rather just obey the rules and regulation in the house. So to cut the whole story in quotes, my dad doesn't hit children, and that was really, really rare, because I've never really seen old African parents not beating their children basbos. So that is one, and I did that in 6 minutes. The other one, the second point is finances, money. My dad doesn't just, he does not waste money. He sure doesn't have money to waste. He spends money on things that are necessary. He spends money on things that are very, very important. My dad will not buy water if water is not necessary. You know, it's as good as that. I've seen my dad handles money. He has it. So my dad really was a farmer. He dealt on cocoa. And with the amount of money that he has, if he has to use that money to take care of himself, like, I don't even know how to grammatize this whole situation. If he has to use that money to like live life, you know, if we have fleets of cars, he will be in a very big house, you know, you will see the money, he will be changing his clothes, as in he will be living life really like a big man. But my dad didn't really follow that path. He just lived within the kind of life. If he wants, for him to afford, if he wants to have like 5 cars, my dad, he will even say, what am I using this car for? Where am I going with the car? Now he will even prefer to have a bicycle that he can drive around. You know, he's that kind of person. He just have that kind of mindset, and he puts his money in something that is over necessary. Like, if invested more in education, he ensured that if you are going to school, is school. My dad don't care about any other thing that has to do with his children financially. The most important thing is education. He will ensure, if he wants to go to school, he will support you financially the best way he can. But my dad will not just wake up one morning and say, take this money, go and buy buns and eat, or go and buy biscuit because it's what other children are eating. No, he won't do that. But he will definitely, invested in school. You know, my dad will tell you, even if you had a child that cannot read and write, ensure that child goes to school. Because that was one of the things he said. He didn't have while growing up. He didn't have the education because he was the only child. He said the only time he ever went to the city to go to school, you know, the mom, for those whole week, the mom did not sleep. The mom will come and stay on top of the mountain, say, hey, will my child make it back from the city today? Because he went to school. So after some few weeks or so, or months, the mother had to plead with him, say, please, my son, you can no longer continue with this school because I don't want to die before my time. I'm beginning to, she was like, she's beginning to have BP because of my dad. So because she had a lot of children, up to like 8, 9, 10 children, they all died for some reasons we can't talk about in this video. So because my dad was the only one she now had, so she didn't want my dad to go to school so that they won't come back with a bad news one day that he didn't make it. So that's the second one, which is prioritizing money, using money for what is most important. Not that everything is not important, but my dad just gives attention to what is most important. If he has money and his food that is most important, he gives food. If he has money, my dad will not wake up one morning and say, I want this new clothes, or I want to wear this. No, he will wear the normal clothes the regular people will wear. He will not go an extra mile to go and buy the exotic ones. He will just wear the regular clothes, the regular native, the regular t-shirt and jean, the regular one, short knicker. He will wear the regular ones. He will not go for the, oh, this is the one the people of the high class. No, he will wear the regular ones. So he won't go for those exotic ones. He will just wear the regular ones that he won't go for the latest. So that is the second point. The third one is education. I think I said it in the first video. My dad invested more in education, just like what I said, because he didn't have education, you know, because he was not educated. Sorry, the grammar in this video. Because he was not educated. So because of that, he always told us that he knew what he missed because he was not educated. There were opportunities he had, but he couldn't use them. You know, there was a time they came to my dad's community. They wanted him to be a chairman. At a point, they wanted him to be one thing or the other. There were a lot of responsibility people voluntarily gave him because of his personality. But he couldn't handle those such situations because he wasn't educated. So he told them that if I should handle this thing now, even if I'm speaking my language, people will naturally just embezzle money because he doesn't know how the money is flying, because he can't do calculations. People will deceive him with biros, with right thing and that. So my father said there was a lot of opportunity he missed because of education. So he emphasized, he invested more in his children, educational wise. If you want to go to school, he will give you his 100% support based on his capacity. If you don't want to go to school, it's not my father's business. But if you want to, he will encourage you. Even when you don't want to, he will encourage you because he knew the value of education. So my dad was more concerned, you know, about education. So everybody in my family, all his children, we all went through school. We all went to school. I don't think there's anybody in that family now that would say he cannot read or he or she cannot write. No, we all went to school. A lot of people, we went to school. All of us are educated. That's the English. So my father invested, you know, he knew the value of education. Yeah. And the fourth one, guys, the fourth one is my dad always lay emphasis on relationship. If my dad see you with a friend that is going this way instead of going this way, he will call you and tell you, my child, do you want to be like this guy? Do you want to, you know, my father laid so much emphasis on relationship. He had few friends in his corner, and there were friends that were disciplined. There were friends that were well cultured, and he wanted us, the children, to also cultivate that part. You know, there were times I had friends, you know, that they were like family because we all lived in the same neighborhood. So I had friends who I won't say gangster, but I will use pidgin English. Those kind of friends were not a year word. You know, I had a lot of them, girlfriends, and my dad would always call me, these are not the right friends you should be with. These are not the right friends. All these friends, I used to see them in different corners at night. And, you know, I was like, in my mind, Daddy, what were you doing at night? But I won't ask, though. So I had a lot of friends, you know, my dad was not really cool with. So he will always advise us, the children, that, no, this is not right, you know. And that was it. Then another thing I knew about my dad was, I already shared, the ones I've shared in the other videos is just coming up. My dad was a person of his words. My dad was a man of his words, you know, and he was a man of integrity. He doesn't like stress. He doesn't like problem. And that was one thing that I think we should cultivate in this life. He doesn't put pressure on himself. Whatever is going on in the world, whatever competition, this general pressure people put on themselves, oh, this is what we need to do, this is what others are doing now, oh, my neighbor just bought a car, oh, my friend is living this life. My dad will admire it. He will so admire it, he will so love it, but he won't put himself under that pressure of getting it. Even if he has the means to get it, he won't do it. And that was one of the things that I think actually contributed to my dad living a very long life. You know, he didn't have things that was pressuring him. He didn't have things that put him under pressure. No, he did not. Then another one was my dad was contented. I think that's number 6 now. My dad was contented. He was a man who was contented with where he was, who he was. He is not someone that is pressured. You know, we live in a neighborhood where most of the houses in that house, they were all educated. You go to the house beside him. The owner of the house is a medical doctor. This one is a teacher. This one is the head of, a council. The other person is the head of a principal. At those days, these were top people in the society, and that was the environment we lived in. And my dad was in the, oh my God, my phone is ringing. Hello? So sorry about that, guys. So my dad they had medical doctors, lawyers, people that are up there, in the society. So my dad lived in the midst of those people, and he wasn't educated. The intimidation was on a very high. It was on a very high hierarchy, guys. It was a high one. But my dad was never intimidated. Where people, you see, they have flashes of cars, they have all those things, when they're in a meeting, they are blowing all these big grammars, and my dad was never intimidated. He was never like feeling inferior, that is living in that kind of environment where the people were really wealthy. Even it got to a point, we got to know that this man wasn't the man was not a poor man, but he lived as a regular kind of guy. He would live as a regular kind of person. He didn't show up his wealth. He didn't go beyond what he could do just because others were like, he didn't go beyond what he felt. Society, what we call societal pressure today. We're like, this is the person, this person has the latest 2025 SUV. Okay, I think that's what is in vogue now. Let me get mine. He didn't put himself in that kind of pressure. He lived. And one funny thing was that when those other people were aged, some of his neighbors became, they couldn't help themselves anymore because they were getting old. All these rich men I'm talking about, it was my dad that was not helping them out. My dad was that kind of guy they saw like, this guy is not up to our standard. But when they were getting age, my dad became their friend. So he was the one going to their house to try to help them as his neighbors that have turned family. But at the young stage, they didn't recognize him like, this guy is not up to us, because he wasn't educated and he wasn't showing off. So that was one thing I also learned from my dad's story. It's good to meet up with what is happening in your generation and all that, but putting ourselves under pressure, as in having panic buttons because this is what is happening now, I can't do it, this is what is happening in my world now. No. So that was one of the things I learned from my dad. So he lived at his own pace, and that's a good virtue. And finally guys, my dad was a man of integrity, and he had so much sincerity. He's sincere, and people knew that about him. People knew that this guy was a sincere person. People knew that, I'm just calling my dad this guy. If my dad was to be part of a plan or a team, they knew there was not going to be fraud. Sincerity. He's sincere. He's honest. He's an honest person. He doesn't like back doors. He doesn't like, at the point they were trying to get him into politics, because he wasn't educated, and also he said politics was too dirty. He didn't even want his children. He got to a point, they said, you can bring your children since you don't want to. You can be their godfather, bring in your children. No, my dad said he doesn't want his children to go in that light. And he was a very, very sincere person. And those were one of the virtues, or these are some of the virtues, I learned from my dad. And I think that these are some of the things that really enhance him living that long. So guys, thank you so much. That brings me to the end of this video. I listed up to 7, if not more than, guys. So thank you so much, guys, for watching. I am Favor Napoleon. Please don't forget to like, to share, to comment, guys. And I'll see you in the next one. Thank you, guys, and bye.